The courtroom of a king is never empty, dull, or boring. Affairs of the state and the kingdom never seemed to be complete, not to mention the hundreds of civil cases that required the king's attention. David sat on his throne, powerful and pious. Whispers of his forbidden love and recent marriage were the continual talk of the chambermaids. His moral compass was still foggy, which could easily be seen by his rash decisions in court that day. He seemed unsettled, agitated. His sin, his son, his sovereignty all seemed to be fighting amongst themselves. Talk of battles, money, plagues, hunger, and politics just amplified King David's anxiety.
"Enough!"
echoed throughout the palace courtroom and moved toward the courtyard. The rapid sound of leather sandals beat against the marble stone floor. Nathan, the prophet, had an urgent matter to discuss with the king.
"Your Eminence,"
Nathan began,
"there are two men in this very city. One happens to be a rich sheep herder, the other a poor man with a single young lamb. The rich man's sheep are so numerous that the herd can cover a hillside."
The corners of David's mouth pull back in a slight grin as he remembers his own sheep-herding days. Nathan continues,
"The poor man loves his precious lamb. It's not just a pet, it's a part of the family. He purchased the lamb for his children, and they too love this lamb. They allow the little lamb to eat with the family during meals as one of them. There's a bed for the lamb in the children's bedroom, and they've painted pictures of him on the walls. The rich man knew the family and often watched the children with the lamb in the fields at the well."
Nathan shifted his weight. His voice dropped. His eyes sank low, and he stared at the ground before continuing.
"One day, the rich man had a visitor stay with him. They wanted to throw a party and celebrate, but he didn't want to use his own lamb for the meal. He snuck down to the house of the poor man, took his lamb, killed it, and ate it."
David's heart burned with anger, and he bellowed his thoughts out loud. David is a protector of the innocent and defender of the helpless. This rich man would pay for his unspeakable selfish act that was wielded against the poor family. Instinctively, he stood up. His hand reached for his sword, ready to unsheath it and rain down terror on this unworthy citizen. David's fiery, bloodthirsty eyes peered down towards Nathan.
"Tell me his name, for I will rip his house apart. I will take from the rich man and give to the poor man. I will lay waste to his countryside and leave him begging for mercy."
With holy boldness, Nathan looks at his beloved king and says,
"King David, it's you."
David's face had a look of shock and disbelief.
Does he know?
David thought to himself. His heart started to race.
Have I been discovered? I thought I was careful.
God's voice detonated, and every prideful thought or evil principality was incinerated.
"I know you. I picked you out of the wilderness, remember? I chose the runt of the litter. I delivered you time and time again from your enemies, man or beast. I know you."
The message was like ice-cold water that froze him where he stood. The death grip on his sword loosened as he braced himself for a fall. God continued to speak through Nathan.
I've taken care of you so much that I gave you Saul, the one who hunted you to kill you, his daughter as your first wife, and then many more. I gave you both kingdoms, Israel and Judah, and if you still needed more from me, I would have given you that too. Instead, you murdered Uriah by using the enemy's sword, and think you've done nothing wrong?
The story of his own greed wrapped around David's throat in a chokehold. The grip got tighter as Nathan pronounced all that David had said would happen to him and his family. Instantly, David's heart splintered against the white marble of the throne room floor. Deep heaves of air trapped his words from coming out. He was embarrassed. He was ashamed. He was disappointed with himself. He was humbled and humiliated. The soldiers, the elders, his cupbearer, his wives, and their eunuchs all watched. Some snickered to themselves while others pretended to be appalled. David tried to speak between the snot, snorts, and coughs.
I've been living and I've been sinning against you, Lord.
The worst part of this punishment was still to come.
God forgives you. You will not die,
said Nathan. David inhales a small amount of hope.
But your child will die.
Nathan backed away slowly with bitter disappointment. He could see his king break. Shrieks of pain resonated to every crevice of the courtroom. By now, streams of tears streaked down Nathan's face. Nothing else could be said or done, so he turned and walked away. You've just listened to the first chapter in my book called 7 Days of Pain. If you'd like to request your copy, please go to marlonmay.com, marlandmay.com.